the SM Media Podcast Network.
Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of SM Media's Countdown to Cheltenham 2026. I'm Scott McPike. It's always a delight to be your host as always, and we are going to have a look at the last show in November. That's the last show in November before we get into December, where the Christmas period starts. To join me as always, it's a pleasure to welcome from the Scottish Daily Mail, Callum McClurkin.
Hi there, yeah, all good here. Pretty good last weekend action where pretty much every kind of big gun went out and won, and went out and won well, and the King George now looks red hot, and a lot of kind of very good horses advertised for claims for big targets down the line and Christmas targets. So yeah, I mean the start of this jump season has been a fairly promising one in terms of quality.
What do we think about in terms of this week, the way the kind of action went? Because we saw three big races, we saw a few Cheltenham clues, we also saw a lot of really promising types for Christmas. Do you think we saw a lot of really nice horses this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're always going to see that anyway, but to see them all kind of go and win and win well and perform quite well without any error and kind of either backing up their rating or their high rating. I mean, Grey Dawning, Jangle Bay, Lossiemouth, Gaelic Warrior and Factifile, I suppose, they all really ran the races very well and all kind of enhanced their claims for King George's down the line or Ryanair's down the line, maybe even Gold Cups down the line. So it really kind of it beefens up the top of the market. It provides some depth at the top table for now, anyway. Jukebox Man was another one that won quite well as expected. So they've all got to kind of still go out there and deliver, even though it was quite expected. And imagine like the favourites all did quite well.
What do we think about, obviously, a couple of things this week? We've got the budget due on Wednesday, as we're recording. We're recording this on Wednesday morning. It's not going to be great, I think, for the whole racing industry. We will find out more. We'll obviously kind of cover it more next week when we find out officially what's happening. But I think racing is going to take a pinch anyway.
Yeah, I think racing's going to probably be affected via the gambling kind of aspect of it, really. I think the racing tax lobby effort has probably been successful, so it will miss out on that. But the issue is that it's kind of gambling and racing is still very much intertwined. So if Rachel Reeves, as expected, will hit kind of gambling in the different areas, remote gaming duty, things like that, then there'll be a knock-on effect on probably betting shops, which in turn will hit media rights and racing, and it will probably come off to the customer at some point down the line in terms of worse odds and poorer terms and things like that, which we're kind of seeing already. So, and the numbers beforehand weren't looking great. Well, the gambling yield is plummeting every year in racing. It's going up elsewhere, but on racing it's not there. And it's whether what do bookmakers do? I mean, they could kind of turn around and say, well, if remote gaming duty, though, our numbers are suggesting that machines and slots are far more profitable for us than racing. So will they go there? That's really the big issue, and you can kind of see the knock-on effects of the business model and bookmakers kind of maybe neglecting racing a little bit. So while I think the raw budget thing might work out quite well for racing in the short term, long term, if bookmakers shift their strategy, it's probably going to hurt the sport.
Well, speaking of hurting the sport, we obviously had the outcome of the corruption case that's been going about for a couple of years. There was obviously an incident at Worcester in July 2023 with a horse called Hilson Jockey Dylan Kitts has been given a 9-year ban in a racing corruption case. The rider and associate John Higgins, not the snooker player, by the way, as was writing,
That's an important legal disclaimer.
Want to make that clear. It's not the snooker player John Higgins. It was obviously found that they had conspired together to commit a corrupt practice by agreeing to stop a horse achieving its best possible position. Kitts has admitted in a disciplinary hearing he prevented his mount from running on its merits. Higgins was banned for 12 years. He was deemed to be the mastermind. He's the father-in-law of Burnley footballer Ashley Barnes, if that is any relevance to anybody, and as an associate of the owner, Alan Clegg, who was not charged by the BHA. The trainer, Chris Honor, was judged not to be part of the conspiracy, but was found to have misled stewards and was fined £750. Not a great look for racing, this. And from obviously, like, I'd actually forgot how bad it was until I'd seen it again the other day. Clear as day.
Yeah, it really hurts the integrity of the sport. You know, it takes a long time. It's quite clear, but it's kind of like any kind of corruption case. It's like you've got to kind of go and establish the depth of it and get a lot of proof. So, you know, who's instigated what. You know, the young jockey's just been incredibly naive. There was a line that he had the tattoo of Hilson in his backside that claimed that was to put the case behind them, but just a lack of contrition there, I think. But yeah, they're going to get lengthy. They've had lengthy bans. You can see why the trainer's probably backed up his young jockey too much and tried to protect him a little bit. And the big lesson here for the BHA and the sport is that, you know, if young riders are feeling like that, then there needs to be better whistleblowing and safeguard techniques to nip this in the bud, because you do look at racing day-to-day business, it's really difficult at the low end to make it pay, and you wonder kind of how much stuff like this is really going on all the time. So, I mean, particularly if you can manipulate kind of young jockeys and jockeys that are on the breadline struggling, you know, you're invariably going to listen to owners and trainers anyway, but if they're deliberately saying, like, stop it and things like that, and there's a chain of corruption, you know you're doing something wrong, but you feel obliged to do it because you're pressured into it or coerced into it, then this is what could happen to you if you go through it. And just hope that the BHA have better safeguards in place and whistleblower that you can actually go and report this and maybe be a bit better protected to an element to a degree. So that's a big lesson there. And yeah, it's lengthy bans, and after a lengthy case, and you know, we hope to draw a line under it and it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, fingers crossed it doesn't happen again. But we'll get into the positives of racing. We obviously had a great weekend in terms of action. We'll start with the big races. Let's go to Haydock on Saturday. We had the Betfair Chase. Grey Dawning finally got it done at the course. One of the most patient rides I've ever seen in a Grade 1 by Harry Skelton. Didn't panic and got the race won. Very, very good performance. What we were hoping to see from Grey Dawning, and does that make him a Gold Cup contender?
Yeah, 14-16 to 1 for the Gold Cup, probably about right. Look, on form, he was well clear, and he did it as if he was well clear, and they made the successful readjustment from last year when they took on Roy Pagaye a bit too soon and on bad ground, and he paddled after the last, and that really killed his season. Really, they never really got him fully back to his best. Here, I think the yard that are operating very, very highly at the moment will change that. So King George isn't the plan. They mooted Savills Chase, which I think would suit him.
That. Yeah, I've seen that.
Leopardstown would suit him, I think. But it's whether they go there for Trainers' Championship, things like that. You know, they might back out of it, go to that race at Windsor or something.
Yeah, they mentioned the Cotswold Chase, I think was mentioned as well.
Then you're kind of lumbering around there with a penalty, a Grade 1 penalty. So he looks like a type that should go over to Ireland, really. I mean, there is kind of a bit of clan de Obo about him in that regard. Stamina can run dry. I mean, off the bridle, you know, what does he really find sometimes? You think his form's still a grade below who are above him in the market, really, because, I mean, I know Royal Pagay is a very haydock specialist, but you'd have been expecting, particularly with others in the race that didn't quite fire. Handstands was probably a bit too fresh and a bit too inexperienced. Haiti Kilo never travelled a yard. It did kind of fall into his lap, and he was one of the short favourites that really should have won like that. And I expected him to kind of do that, and he's did it really well. He's grade 1 in the bag for the season. It'll just be interesting with the campaign up next. But it's a confident ride. Did it nicely. He was a bit scratchy early doors with his jumping. I think the others were more fluent, apart from Haiti Kalour, who hated the place probably some bad placing there. I would suggest. I think they kind of took the next step into Grade 1 company a little bit too soon. The initial plan was Newbury and this week, and they maybe should have stuck to that, because it's twice he's been to Haydock and twice he's not liked it. It's quite tight around there, so probably didn't suit him. But it was all about the winner from some way out, and he's a smooth, stylish traveller, and he's a bit trip versatile as well, so he could come back a little bit as well. Would it be rowing in each way for a Gold Cup? Not particularly.
Yeah, I think it is more in case of what they do next. I can see him running well in a Gold Cup, but you would have to.
It's hard, isn't it? I mean,
wonder if he gets the extra two.
Not
two
there. I mean,
furlongs.
it's Betfair Chase King George Gold Cup normally.
And he's this trainer said, "I'm never sending him right-handed again." Like that kind of tells you.
He should really be going over to the Savills or Irish Gold Cup and Gold Cup, but it's probably something they're not going to do. They'll have to even the Denman chases there, but again, that's kind of quite tight backup.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody ran at Kelso last year, so there isn't really a lot. There's nothing for him for Christmas. If he only goes Ireland or maybe start of February, the Irish Gold Cup's maybe better mapped out, because he doesn't look like a horse that would like kind of leopards to.
Yeah, well, it's definitely interesting to see what happens. Lossiemouth won the Morgiana Hurdle. Yeah, Willie Mullins doing what Willie Mullins does and sending Lossiemouth here. Yeah, and she done this as easily as she had to. But there wasn't a lot of challenges. Aranci didn't run his race, and the other two were, let's be honest, handicappers. Right, Lossiemouth. Last week we would have probably been 20% she goes for the Mayor's Hurdle. What is she now to go for the Champion Hurdle?
No, it's a little bit more 50-50 now. It might hinge on what Amsterdam does, because if he disappoints at Newcastle, finishes like a distant third to the top two, then you're looking at Lossiemouth as your de facto number one in the Willie Mullins stable, Champion Hurdle-wise. So the fact that Stateman isn't there, Jason, I think there's probably a good opportunity now that she go Champion Hurdle, particularly starting off at 2 miles, then probably has to stay 2 miles again Christmas, and you can't really see her now running 2.5 at all.
Yeah, there's still talk of her coming.
Don't seem to be going to Kempton anymore either. So
well, that was mentioned, but then there was a thing the other day. I think it was Patrick Mullins yesterday said it's full steam ahead to Leopardstown. So
yeah, I mean she's taking up the Stateman mantle very, very early on, and Amsterdam's probably too inexperienced yet. It's a little bit of a fact-finding mission. We'll go to Newcastle, see where we are against the best of the British.
Mm-hmm.
And we know what level Lossiemouth could run to, and 2 miles was fine. Her performance was fine. Took a chance at one where she dived at it a little bit, and that questioned the mark of when she truly has to quicken at 2 miles, can that creep in? Irish champions kind of mistake from nowhere and ploughed through it. That was a bit like that where she kind of dived at it. Paul Tenney kind of was quickly dismissed. It was kind of a lack of concentration from horse and ride a little bit, but that can creep in and be something worse, in a better race. And there wasn't anything really that would take her out of comfort zone. I mean, he kind of put the pedal to metal, put them quickly down to the sword anyway, as he should, particularly with Aranci. If Aranci travelled into a bit better and get into 2 out, then it might ask a different question of Lossiemouth, because she then get in a bit tight to a couple after that mistake, kind of ran into it, steadied into it, and won't really get away with that in a better race over 2 miles faster pace. So there is that little doubt about her at the trip. obviously her record speaks for itself, and she can handle it. And it's first time out, so it was never ever going to be foot perfect, and it didn't need to be. But yeah, it's probably 50-50. I think you'd probably be kind of on the champion hurdle bandwagon a little bit. After next week, we'll make it very clear, because it's probably all about what Amsterdam does now. It's kind of the ball in your court, put in a performance that suggests that we might not need her, or Rich will be turned around. Well, Stateman's not there, so Paul Townend will ride her. So it's all systems go for the champion hurdle. It'll be interesting. The fact that Woodhoo as well is kind of emerging as a decent rival as well in the Mares Hurdle division might push him champion hurdle as well. So, and then you can argue what does Willie Mullins have Mares Hurdle wise. So there's still kind of shifting plates there that they're going to figure out probably by Christmas, New Year of who goes down which path. And Lossiemouth seems to be key now to both. Well, she wasn't at the time, there's no that kind of extra cover there. So she might be.
Yeah, but it was a good performance from Lossiemouth. Let's get into Sunday with the John Durkan chase. It was a 2-horse race, but it was one of the best races we've seen in a while. Gaelic Warrior beat Factory File by a neck. That doesn't tell the whole story. Gaelic Warrior obviously went out a lot in front, looked to have went too quick, and Factory File was clawing back, but Gaelic Warrior found more and won by a neck. Fantastic race, fantastic finish.
Yeah, it was good to watch. Yeah, didn't have a bet all week. But you didn't really need to be honest with that. You'd be a bit kind of kicking yourself if you thought you could pair 6-7 favourites of the week, and you would have done really, really well. But that was two very good horses going at it, putting 29 lengths to the field, fast or slow. You could argue were they off, were they that bothered? But it doesn't matter. I mean, you'd expect them to come kind of to box on and close the gap a little bit, but they didn't. And I think both horses emerged with huge credit, but particularly the winner, Gaelic Warrior, horse that could be in and out, pretty hard to predict to get right. I think that's why I think a lot of people kind of pin him down a little bit. They don't really know what he is, but when he's on, and he's very, very good, and he's winning over multiple trips, 2 miles, 3 miles, 2.5, at the top level as well, throughout a career that started as a juvenile.
See the amount of times I've seen the tweets going up that he was beat off 129 in a Boodles. This isn't the same horse as that. Like, he's it is to a degree, but we knew he was capable of big stuff. It was just, can he do it consistently?
Yeah, and he's still very fresh and very enthusiastic, isn't he? I think that's what kind of let him down at Cheltenham a little bit. And how they get beat a handicap. A lot of good horses get beat off handicap marks. Even the flat, an American Affair get beaten in the Gold Cup and won a Group 1. At handicaps, it can happen. You can bump into one in the day. I think probably the thing is with Brazil was giving him weight, and that was a bit of a surprise. But he just undercooked as a juvenile and lack of experience got him, didn't he? Because he did everything wrong in that race, and he's left it well behind, and he's even building up a better track record left hand, and he doesn't like Leopardstown probably, so that's why he'll probably go King George, and that's where he kind of reserves his kind of.
They both go King George.
Doesn't look like it now, does it? I mean, Willie Mullins said afterwards that he'll split them up. I think Gallop and Deschamps maybe a little bit behind the 8 ball at this stage. I think Factory File probably goes Leopardstown in 3 miles into the Savills chase. I would imagine. I don't think we'll see them again until maybe they might meet in the Ryanair together in the same race. So when I did it well, I wasn't that shocked that Gaelic Warrior battled back to win, because I thought Paul Townend was absolutely brilliant here, because he let him freewheel for about the first mile, where they went pretty hard, not a wild pace, but pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
And then the middle third of the race, he did reserve a little bit and then held back a little bit again. Only Factory File to do a lot. I mean, you thought like Gaelic Warrior was making all, Factory File was essentially making all as well. I mean, nobody was dragging him into the race. Nobody was kind of. He wasn't conserving energy to make up that ground, and when he did, Townend, he just reserved enough. He was able to restrain him just enough between the fourth and second last, where you think I'll just keep enough for the finish, and he did, and battled back, and in fact he felt kind of emptied a little bit. But that's nothing against him. You're kind of naturally you'd expect Factifel to go by because he's gone too quick. But the fractions of the race, the finishing speed is 101%. So it wasn't as crazy as you think, and that's probably a positive for Gaelic Warriors King George chance, because your initial impression thought, my God, they two have had a very hard races there. I don't think they actually have that hard a race. If you look at the kind of sectionals, so it's probably a plus for his King George chance.
You said something interesting there, that you think they might end up in the Ryanair against each other. There's a lot of talk. Gaelic Warriors now 8-1 for a Gold Cup. What's the chances of that?
They both could still end up in a Gold Cup. You know, I mean, the fact that Gaelic Warriors done that entry, but you would need a much different ride. You need an entry ride where it to hold them up with freshness. And I'm just not sure if Paul Townend is comfortable doing that. It was Patrick Mullins that was on my entry, and I think Paul Townend would prefer bowling along in a Ryanair in terms of his Cheltenham. It's an attacking, aggressive ride. You know, like Allaho did in the past. You know, sometimes he did it with Min. I just see him as that ride a horse around Cheltenham. No, they kind of did it quite well in the Arkle, didn't he? Where he did show some restraint, but that was overshot, and they kicked on. And when he kicks on, he really goes off the race. I just wonder if he's fresh early doors and they try and burn them off. If you do that at a Gold Cup, you're not going to get up the hill. Simple as that. And you're going to get rivals that are you're not going to get, even though they went hard and it kind of broke them a little bit. You're not kind of the bona fide 2.5 mile with 2 mile pace that can stay. You know, in a Gold Cup, you're just not going to get those tactics, because you will still get pace pressure and you'll have to sustain it for a lot longer. And left-handed, I don't think that's what they want to do. But he's shown he's a bit more versatile now. So if they ride him differently, he's got options. But the thing is, you know, if Galopin Deschamps flying high, you know, he's not going to ride Gaelic Warrior in a Gold Cup. He'll probably stick with Galopin Deschamps. You know, if Galopin Deschamps might be at the picture, and Gaelic Warrior will come in maybe as Paul Townend option for the Gold Cup. You know, in the Ryanair, at least, you know, Mark Walsh will go in fact to file. So that would free up Paul Townend to ride Gaelic Warrior. So I still think that the Ryanair is probably the most likely kind of target for him at Cheltenham. But got the King George business to do first. They'd probably skip Leopardstown after that, the King George, and that's what they'll probably do. It was a really big performance, and probably the kind of performance that kind of really silences his doubters. But he's not really much of a punter's friend horse. You know, when you expect him to kind of go and do it, you know, he can throw in the odd kind of wobbler, really, and that might happen around Kempton. It should suit him in theory. I mean, and his form's better than anything else in the race. So he's entitled to be favourite, but it's just his overall profile that would not really enthuse you to take 64 about a King George right now. Plus, he's still got to go there. I mean, they might not commit to it at the end of the day. I mean, Willie Mullins has done a lot more switcheroos than that back in the day. So I mean, they might balk at it, and he's got to come out of it and look pretty good. I mean, to me, initially you think that was a hard race for a seasonal opener, and then you look at the times and the sections and think, well, maybe it actually wasn't. It might actually been a bit hard, in fact, to file, because he had to make up all that ground in a winner really well. Townend was kind of like hard early doors, steady, and then reasonably strong in the finish. So, in fact, failed to make that ground up much steadier, and maybe put a lot more effort in with no cover. So, yeah, both very, very good horses going forward. And you know, they were both very mid 175 performances. You know, I mean, it's simple as that. You know, it was very, very high rank stuff. The others in behind, the Gold Cup winner. The fact the Gold Cup winner's not even been cut for the Gold Cup after that.
Have you ever seen a Gold Cup winner be at 18-1 in his next race?
Well, that's it. I think a lot of people are like complaining about that. It's like, oh, what, why are they so big? But I mean, how do you kind of really judge these races? I mean, there's so much money in the morning for Gaelic Warrior, and
Yeah, I know.
in fact, Phil's only rival. The market's telling you how this is playing out. You know what I mean? It's just kind of a case of like it or lump it. You know what I mean? It's like these are the only two horses that can win the race,
Mhm.
and you've got to pick one or the other. If it's too close to call, you just sit back and watch, and that's what happened. But you know, it's just patently an inadequate trip for him, and you know he was airy at a couple, but I mean, you know, seeing he was back, he was back at the TV. He wasn't even in the TV picture.
No, it was.
He couldn't really monitor anyone else in the race, you know, because it was that blown apart. It had a feel, a bit of like a visual feel of like a beginner's chase the way it was, but you know, he'll steadily come on for it and look to improve. But I mean, the reason why you wouldn't take 72 at the moment is, well, is he going to do that again? Because, or was that just a one flash in the pan performance? Because that Gold Cup performance is in total contrast to everything else he's done in his career. I mean, you have to be mindful of that. Where we'll just peak him for the big day again and things like that. You know, maybe that was a bit of an outlier as well. So you've got to kind of think of the other side of the argument where, oh well, I don't mind having 72 or 41 or 92 about this horse. Well, you might if that's the only performance that he's ever going to put in his career down the line. I mean, it can work. It can work one of two ways.
Right, let's get into our three performances each over the week. We'll start with what was your kind of top performance of the weekend that caught your eye?
I thought Woodoo was very good at Ascot. I mean, 8 wins from 9 now. She just keeps on rolling and keeps winning, and this was quite impressive because she was one of the maybe few kind of more modern favourites that had to really knuckle down and win. It didn't go correct from flag fall. She was probably a bit further back than anticipated, and Celtic Dino was really well
Well
punted.
back in the day, yeah.
Was well backed and did enough to fend him off quite well. But the jump at the last was electric. You know, I mean, I don't think she's. I mean, Gordon Elliott was like champion hurdle or stairs hurdle or Mare's hurdle. Definitely going Mare's hurdle, I think. But
Yeah.
she doesn't have the toe for a champion hurdle because he saw that in the first mile and a half of that race, so he couldn't really keep up the gallop. Stairs hurdle possible, but that jump at the last, as if she never left the ground. The hurdle wasn't there, you know. And it was an important one because you had to meet it right to go and secure the race. I thought Danny Gilligan was very, very good and very patient on her. And it's an interesting thing is in the big festivals, does he keep the ride? Because he's been superb on her and got a very good report offer. So 94 for the Mayor's Hurdle because there's the expectation twist of Lossiemouth going champion. I mean, I suppose he could do one of those kind of filthy doubles where if Lossiemouth goes champion, you can back Woodoo for the Mayors because there's nothing else in opposition. And that's about 10-1. I mean, if one does well, the other will invariably do well. And the fact that the Mayor's Hurdle's in the new course where she's won the Martin Pipe suggests it's even more obvious that she'd go there. So she keeps improving her form. The programme book in Ireland isn't great for her, so you know there's a couple of kind of January races where they might come over here again. The Railkill, for instance, is usually a very good kind of platform, or it's a race at Doncaster we could go back in against their own sex. But yeah, I mean, she keeps improving, and we know what she did at Grade 1 level, where she ran pretty well behind Lossiemouth at Aintree in the Aintree hurdle. Only beaten kind of 3 lengths or so. So she's definitely getting on the top table, and if you keep racking up the wins, I mean, there's an argument to have that she's at least the second best horse in Gordon Elliott's yard.
Oh, I think that's certainly the most consistent horse in the yard. Like,
absolutely, yeah.
She's been.
Saved his Cheltenham, didn't he, last season?
Yes, she's a very, very promising mare. I'm going to go for Haydock on Saturday. It was nice to see the Jukebox Man coming back. Very, very solid performance. Still, you don't realise just how, when he starts jumping a fence, just how good he actually is. Definitely a King George player, and it was good to see him back.
Yeah, beating Aroko, jumping nicely from the front, and just stamped his class on the race a little bit. Obviously won the Cato Star last year, so he acts around Kempton very, very well. He's expected to step forward from it. Like he has to. He's got to find £10 from somewhere. At least he's got the kind of the track, the trip kind of ticked off. He likes to be handy and prominent. There's going to be a hell of a lot of pace in that King George. I wonder if he's going to get to the lead, and it might be a bit of a culture shock to him early on because he liked to do. I mean, he asserted Albert Bartlett, didn't he, when he was second? So around there, I think it might be hard to do. I mean, I know LA Francis blotted his copybook badly, but I mean, he's still going to turn up, and Gaelic Warrior will go forward, and then there's a lot of pace in that race at the moment. If they all take the ground, and he might have to sit and suffer a little bit. He's an each way player. I think he's a bit short. 11 to 261 now.
Yeah, he's 9 to 2. I can see here about 365.
Too short for me. He's got a bit to find. If the big players come up, but they might not. And they definitely left improvement on him. Didn't really have to come off the bridle. Ben Jones at pains to kind of keep him together, but he's very clean. He's very efficient, and he stays. So it's whether he can get that early position that he wants, because I think he might find it difficult. But and he's got to take his form to a new level. But from his novice days, that he might be capable of it, and he's definitely an intriguing runner and a very likeable horse as well. Got to say, I think he seems to always run his race when fit, and kind of a different yard. Ben Pollen kind of going for races of that nature now. Harry Redknapp, the owner, it brings a bit of colour to events.
Yeah, absolutely right. Let's go to your second horse.
You have to mention Django Bay, don't we?
Yep, I was kind of hoping that's who you would say. Thought I'd give you a perfect setup there for the King George.
Basically, everything King George. Yeah, I mean, you could accuse this of falling apart slightly. Welly Francais not running well. Pick Dory probably leaving his race behind at Weatherby.
I think the time was good. I think
time was very good. Gidley Park ran well up to 2 out and then blew up, which is understandable. Kind of head went in the air a little bit. He's had problems before, but he was punted as if he was fit for this. So maybe he was Django Bay was the one that kind of picked up the pieces that set up wonderfully for him. But he was very, very good, and he had a lot more to offer. And that Arco form it looks suspect maybe at the start of the season. It's looking really, really strong. Everything's coming out winning left, right, and centre from it. He was going to be better up and trip, and he looks like he might be better up and trip again. Because he finished that race off really, really well. As you say, time was very good, and his jumping was just spot on, and he looked the winner from a long way out. And again, support that he needed it, and from normal improvement from that, he's a huge runner in the King George.
Yeah, I think he's a massive player in a King George, and I think I would be stunned if he's not a player in an Ascot Chase. I think that's exactly what they'll maybe go for with him. You can see that.
The timing's right, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it's King George. It'll be quite a big backup. So I mean, you could see him being left alone. If he wins it, for instance, and wins it in the way that you think it would pan out, off the pace, you'd normally kind of. That's you till March, really, and then opens up. Aintree punches down afterwards if you're going for a big Cheltenham race, and he could be a Gold Cup horse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like 20s or something like that for that. He's got the ability. I think he'd probably stay, and I think if you do go and win the King George, I don't think it's a certainty that you just go back and trip for Ryanair. I really don't. They might feel that they're compelled to kind of go there, particularly because he finishes his races off so well each time. Even at Aintree where he was a bit lame behind Imperi Pass when he came out there. I mean, he did stay quite well to the line regardless. So I think it's quite interesting what they'll do with them. Obviously, all systems go to King George, and then we'll see what the Cheltenham target is after that. But if he runs away and wins that, and I think he's probably going to get a similar pace set up to what he got at Ascot at the moment. You can see him running really well and suitable, and he's on the improve. So I mean, there's no way I kind of telling kind of where his ceiling of ability lies, because everything that he's kind of been asked of, he's coped with it really well.
Yeah, he's done very well. When you just say that Arkle form is working out a treat. Cabral Dumathan for Dan Skelton. I thought his jumping was really good. He's got a massive weight, hike in the weights. I think he's up to 144. Puts him in the mind of a stairs hurdle. They have mentioned the real Keel could be next. He's a player in a stairs hurdle.
Yeah, I don't think he'll stay. I think he's got so much verve. I remember watching this horse here when he was Paul Nicholls. He's not slow.
No.
And I just don't think a stairs hurdle at the moment would be his bag. If he's up to 144 only, he's definitely not handicapped to the best races. But if they go rail keel, which is a suitable race for him, then you would be then looking at it going outside handicap company. I think he could probably take another handicap in if he wanted to. I mean, he took that out. He always looked like a kind of well-handicapped horse at Paul Nicholls that never really got the best out of for some reason. I've had a wind up, change of yard. It seems to work really, really well. I think they could take another handicap in. They're not going to put him away for anything, I don't think. I know the stairs hurdle's weak, but I mean, to be a mid-140s horse and go there, it's still asking a lot. You need a stone from somewhere really to be a player at the top level. And I don't think he's a cast iron 3-miler. I think he's quite quick. I think he's quite exuberant. So rail keel around 2.5 is a logical bit of placing for me. And then I'll find out if you've got a graded horse or not. And I suspect he is borderline graded class if they've found the key to him.
Right, what's your third performance of the week?
Third up, Oscar's brother was quite good in the Florida Pearl. I mean, not a yard that you'd associate really with a lot of kind of top notchers, but I mean, he did it quite well and kind of digging down, likes bad ground. Connections are gutted that Leopardstown 3-miler is no more, so I think you'd probably have to go to Limerick, but it might not have been the deepest of races, and the favourite kind of disappointed a little bit, but dug it out well. Young horse on the upgrade, be a bit left field in connections, but don't be surprised if if he's up to that kind of standard against maybe better horses from more established yards, because the jumping was superb and he picked up quite smartly on the outside, so he's one to keep an eye on. It he might be tricky to place in the short term, and maybe these kind of grade 2s in Ireland are what they want to do, but yeah, keep an eye on him. Oscar's brother in the Florida Pearl, I thought it was a sneakily good performance.
Yeah, I thought it was good as well. I'm going to go to Thursday and Cristal Destreval for Harry Derham. Thought this was a really, really good race. I thought he'd done it very well. You can give it 20-25 for a Supreme. Wouldn't be surprised if he is a graded operator in the future. I thought he was really good here.
Yeah, Harry Derham's got a good few kind of young horses coming through. They've sourced out quite a few that are doing well, and yeah, he looked good. Interesting what they do next. So we up and grade, find out a little bit more. Look out for a kind of grade 2, maybe a lesser race with him.
Right, let's go into what's happening this weekend. We've got 3 good days of action. We'll start on Friday at Newbury. We'll go with the John Frankham Novices Chase, which I think looks very, very good. Regent Stroll, like we spoke about, we don't have declarations yet. Regent Stroll leads the market. We've got Wendigo in here as well. Obviously was in that Albert Bartlett. Some good operators in this race. You've got like King of Kingsfields in here. You've got Kingston Pride for Ollie Murphy, Steel Alley for Sam Thomas, and as well you have Crest of Fortune for Anthony Honeyball. I think this could be a really, really good race. Regent Stroll's probably the one I'm most excited about in here. Whether this is exactly what Regent Stroll could put in the performance, is it the solid one I would back? I don't know. I really like No Questions Asked for Ben Paulin last time out. I think there's actually Kingston Pride, No Questions Asked, and Steel Alley were both very good last time out. So I'm very undecided at the moment with this.
Yeah, it's probably kind of weak to the day races and the makeup of them. I think Regent Stroll's probably the best horse in the field. Again, it's a bit like the drama this end kind of instance, where most talented down the line, it's just whether he's ready or not. Suspect he will, probably rightful favourite, probably will go off favourite. Wendigo's form has been backed up from Worcester when weighed out. It's gone out and won again. Might be more of a stare at the trip though, so could be outpaced. Kingston Pride would have maybe a little bit more to find up in grade. As with you, I think no questions asked and quite well at ask it. Maybe maybe one of those novices chases that did lack a little bit of depth, a bit to find from his kind of hurling days. So I can see why he's in there. Steel Allied trip might be a bit of a doubt. So yeah, I think Regent Stoke's probably the one here. And if there's market confidence behind him, I think he's probably get a bit too much class for them, but he does need to kind of bounce back. He ran really well first time out, didn't he, last season? So he goes well fresh, and then he tapered off a bit. But I mean, that was kind of Paul Nicholls' yard form. They're kind of messing about with trips a little bit, trying to find out what they wanted to do. So, but his entry effort last time was pretty good, and in behind Honesty Policy, he was only beaten half a length. And I think that's the best form in the field, just about. So, and he should make the grade as a chase, and he's been talked up quite well. So, yeah, I think it's a bit like No Drama this end, where I think he's definitely the best horse in the race in time. Just whether he's going to be ready for it, like No Drama this end was, and if he is, I think he'd probably win this.
I think if the market's strong, I think Regent Stroll is probably the one to buy it. But again, like, it's style over substance, isn't it? Like Regent Stroll, you don't know what he's like over a fence, but he's the exciting horse in the field. But there's a few solid ones, so it's like
a chaser, isn't he? And none of these would be second in a Grade 1, would they?
No, probably not.
As a novice hurdler at that trip as well. Steel Ally is a player, just the trip when he went up to 2.5. Last season it didn't quite work out for him. So, and he arguably got outstayed at Fontwell before at the 2 mile 3. So he jumps really, really well, and his form's been boosted. So I thought he'd be the obvious one to oppose, but I would prefer him at 2 miles. But they've got their other horse for that, the Sam Thomas Yard. So I think he's dangerous if he sees it out. But you just suspect that there's a bigger effort in Regent Stroll somewhere.
Right, let's get into the long distance hurdle. I'm trying to find stuff on declarations because it's before 10 o'clock we're recording this. It doesn't look like Honesty Policy is going here. We do have Strong Leader at 94 for Ollie Murphy, Imposed Twat 4-1, Take No Chances at 5, Hewick 8 looks to be going. If he likes a Doddy the Great, Gill Road. Can I put in a really strong word who might feature later for Imposed Twat? I think he is. I think if he wins this, he's certainly a Stairs Hurdle player. He's 20-1 for the Stairs Hurdle at the moment. Showed a lot when winning at Aintree last time out. I think it's a big step that they're going here. I don't think this is a hard race to win. He doesn't have a lot to find in Strong Leader. I think he's a serious player in this.
And he's only 7. He seems to be around for some time. He did it well at Aintree. Surprised at Henderson Yard of how well he kind of did it. Like 3 and a bit. Apparently doesn't show a lot at home. Fitness wise, should improve. And in weights and measures, he gets £6 from Strong Leader. He should be capable of seeing this out, and maybe even taking it out. Is it Weatherby they kind of didn't go that hard, and they had to be humoured along the bridle, and Strong Leader kind of did it as a steer does. Imposé Trois would travel a little bit more comfortably into his races, for instance. So I'm not all in it. I wouldn't have a strong opinion either way. Imposé Trois is up to 153. So what is he, about £10 off your Tia Hupus of the land and things like that? And that'll be very informative tomorrow when Tia Hupu on the Sunday when Tia Hupu and Ballyburn clash in terms of Stairs Hurdle horses. So yeah, he could make the grade. This other thing is, I mean, he's not really mixed in graded company at all in his life, is he? I mean, he does have to kind of make that jump, but as you say, the division it's pretty minor.
Yeah,
it's pretty minor, and they've already kind of had a sighter of Dolly the Great, who's 3 times his price in here. That went reasonably close at Weatherby after winning upper times, and he's still only rated 146, and he doesn't look out of place. Grade 2s at least, and he's 9. So, yeah, interesting. But I mean, the thing is, he could be kind of fooled a little bit last day because he might have just outclassed him. But going up, I'm neither here nor there with him. I think he's kind of priced right for where he is and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see. And I wouldn't be shocked if he took that out at Newbury. Favourites are one to beat, and you'd imagine they'd want strong leader. Yeah, I mean they'd want a strong pace here because he's a thorough stayer at the trip.
Right, let's get into Saturday. We've got the Jerry Fielding at 2:15, Indemnity for Emma Lavelle at 4-1, along with Live Conti, Indivar Blue and Vianney at 6-1. Give it to me, OJ. I have a really strong interest in Jubilee Alpha here. Think off 141, she's off a good mark. She belted the second last time out, and she would have won the race if she didn't make that mistake. I think there's a lot to come of her. She's quite high in the weights, but I would say she's probably the one. There's always a promising type that does well in this. Live Conti could be it as well. But Jubilee Alpha, I would give a strong word to in this.
Yeah, I get a chance. I think a lot of these have a chance. Yards form, Indemnities kind of dipped slightly. Indivar Blue coming back from a break. There's a chance. Vianney is quite interesting, I thought. I mean, he's been quite well tipped up as well. Horse I like for some time. Ran behind Lalamba, of course. That race where Mando Man was second. Ran pretty well. Plan was going to Kempton. They didn't. Went to Ludlow. Won pretty comfortably. And then things just didn't quite go to plan from there. But they kind of kept him, put him away. Thought he was a Fred Winter kind of horse with the ground went against him. He wants decent enough ground, I would think. Whether he's going to get it, soft at the moment. Whether he's going to get it is another matter. I thought he was interested one early doors off a featherweight. Give it to me. OG comes here, and probably has more to offer than 143 as well. So, and of course, Jubilee Alpha has got some high class mares form, particularly around Cheltenham. So, yeah, I mean it's a decent enough little race. I'm happy to kind of wait till later on and see what the final decks are.
Right, let's get into the Coral Gold Cup. Obviously one of the big handicaps of the season. We have Mayertown at 5-1, Resplendent Grey 6 as well. It's a Highland, the Changing Man, Kitati Dory, the Willie Mullins pair of Spanish Harlem and Blizzard of Oz. Do you have an angle into this yet?
Hopefully Mayertown wins. I mean, if there's a Grade 1 horse in here, it's him.
Yeah.
And he's still well handicapped. I mean, I think took the Ultim out off 127, 142 here. He's still going to be carrying 10-11. You know what he's going to do? He's going to try and kind of go out there. He said 3 racecourse gallops, so he should be fit. I know the yard form's a question mark. But he's a one with like a lot of potential. And if it goes right and he gets in a rhythm up front, it's going to be incredibly hard to stop. It's as simple as that for me. And is he not getting? He beat the Changing Man by 11 lengths, and Changing Man's ran all right since. And there's still people that will fancy the Changing Man here, even though his win record leaves a bit to be desired. But he's still going to be prominent in all these kind of handicap marks. He's 9-1, for instance. He's still got to give him a pound. I mean, there's still scope there. They've stuck to the plan, even though they might have been tempted to do something else. And I just think that this is kind of his race. I mean, the lack of prep run might be a bit of a worry, but Cinder Russell's talked very, very high on him again yesterday. He's been around there twice. He's in 3 racecourse gallops. He's been around here twice. He even jumped around obstacles at here. He's still 8, and he's a second season novice chaser. And he has that kind of, he has the profile that takes this out. He's definitely not weighted out of it yet. So I think you win. Resplendent Grey gets 6 for coming back at Carlisle. I don't think he'd win this. After that, I thought he ran quite well there. Handstands didn't let the form down entirely, but big weight here. You just think, are they working back from Grand National from here? Highlands come in for money. You can see why. He's been dropped a couple of pounds for Cheltenham, which was just a pipe opener for this. He did make niggly mistakes though, and he can be a bit clumsy sometimes. And maybe his price is starting to go because he's gone from 14s to 8s, and 8s is short enough. I thought he was each way threat in the race at the start of the week. At 8 to 1, I'm less inclined because it's short enough. The changing man will run his race in place, and the Tizzards are in absolutely flying form. If he takes a step forward from Ascot form wise, then he's in the picture. But he's a horse that just doesn't win as often as he should. Katat Door's very unexposed as well. Had to run over hurdles and that. Positoire's course at Perturms, just didn't enjoy it. Back over fences might be a completely different proposition. Then you've got kind of a couple of Mullins horses. I think Blizzard of Oz might be the best of them.
Yeah, I think Blizzard of Oz is the angle I'm going to go on.
I think he kind of talked about that.
Promising horse,
I think he kind of talked about that higher. Victorino's better right-handed. If Finch House get in, he'd be interesting because Paul Nicholls kind of did it with Can Do Kid a little bit. If he get in at the bottom of the weights, he'd have a chance because that Cheltenham race that Highland was in, he finished higher than him. And he ran really well till he obviously blew up for fitness purposes. I thought he was interesting if he gets in, but that seems to be a big if. Panic Attack doubling up.
Yeah, I don't think it'll go
a little bit.
Yeah.
They might get in. They might take the Irish. The Irish might take a few out here. Lowry's Park could run well as well if he takes his chance, but he'd be quite fresh. So yeah, I do believe that this is all about the favourite. If he gets in a position, he's handy, he's prominent, he jumps in a rhythm, then I can see him. It wouldn't be a lift and length win Ultima style, but
no,
he could take some stopping, and even if he's 7-8 to 1, I think he's a win only bet because he's a point and shoot job really at this stage of his career. So I wouldn't be bothered with placings. Even if he does drift out, he's a win bet and then find something each way, maybe in Chouse if he crept in. But yeah, I mean, this is meant to be their new stable star, and I hope he goes out and delivers. And expect him to.
Okay, so big vote for Meyertown there for Callum. Let's get into the Grade 1 of the weekend. We have the 2 o'clock at Newcastle, the BetMGM Fighting 5th Hurdle. Constitution Hill is 6-4 favourite. The New Lion is 13-8. Anzadam 3-1. Last year's champion hurdle winner, Golden Ace, is 25s, and they've supplemented in the main line. Constitution Hill's favourite.
No surprise, is it? The public come for him, don't they? No matter what.
Is that a sign in itself, though?
Yeah, it's a positive sign because Nicky Henderson and his other big horses have come out and delivered early on. Alhambra, Django Bay, perhaps in Positwan as well. His big guns have been fit and fine and ready, and and they have been talking positively about it. You wouldn't expect any other way, but the way they've kind of stripped him down, and rebuilt it and taken step by steps, and had a relatively clear run in the summer, and the public gallop where he did pull away from his horses. His 1-1-3 rated rival, as you would expect. Would you take it as gospel and say that he's back to his bona fide 175, 170 best? You can't, because you need to see him jump a hurdle at speed, and that's going to be the big what if. But there's no doubt that the market last week has spoken very, very favourably for him.
But the New Lion as well, obviously big step to go and win this after obviously winning the Turners. He's the exciting horse. Ansadam looks like he's coming over. You don't need to have a bet in this race, is what I'll say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's like a lot of these early season big Grade 1s, is it? Like the John Durkan last week, really, isn't it? I mean, you don't really know where these horses are at. The New Lion, his big unknown is speed. 2 miles. Is he quick enough? Full stop. Constitution Hill, is he there? Is he jumping there? Is the engine there? Amsterdam, is he good enough? I mean, he hasn't beaten anybody of substance really. Yeah, he's the one that's looked the part. So you've got three horses at contrasting stages of their career, uh, doing different things that have got different questions to answer. To me, if you were compelled to have a bet right now at the prices, the New Lion is the obvious one.
Okay.
He's got less to prove. The trip is a little bit of a doubt, but his top speed figure isn't miles away from them. And the way he travels suggests that he's got high enough cruising speed. The argument was they outstayed them at Cheltenham, but he was out the back travelling very comfortably in that race, beating Final to Ban the yellow clay. There's mixed message over that from Final Man's gone to the ants it over fences and further, and at Punchestown where the yellow clay's kind of let it down a bit. But it's traditionally a very good race. He's been all the rage, Ante Post, and then I think people have kind of backed off, and mainly because a lot of good judges have kind of gone, well, he shouldn't be this short the champion hurdle because he's got to prove it at 2 miles in open company.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of potential there, and the yard aren't going to. The yard as well is a big thing. Like Grey Dawning to a degree last week, you would put your faith in the yard to have him absolutely bang on for this. Willie Mullins was saying like maybe Mystical Power last year. It's kind of a fact finding mission a little bit. They're kind of pitching that Amsterdam in here to kind of determine if he's up to this standard, not really with a natural expectation to really go and win. Constitution Hill, for all that it might be back, you'd imagine they would have left a bit on him. Maybe not in the case of they're so desperate maybe to get him A1 for this, and I think that's kind of the doubt there. But it's kind of which horse would you trust the most? Would you trust Constitution Hill to come back in the jumping department and be enthusiastic and up for this, or do you trust the New Lion to show a little bit more speed at this grade? I would be in the New Lion camp in that regard because, well, we know he can jump a hurdle. Surely that's enough. Surely that's enough evidence. To me it is. And they're rolling in with Constitution Hill again, and after the last 3 times, you just can't.
Very similar to Kempton. That's what it's kind of coming to my mind.
Well, it's tactics as well. Do they do what they do at Kempton and go, we know what we're the best horse in the race. We're going to ride him forcefully. We're going to make all, and the jockey's going to make his mind up with the horse. No doubts, no regrets. Saying this is what we're going to do. We're going to go out, bowl out, and we're going to attack and be quick, and we're going to find out where we are. And if they execute that plan, then the New Lion won't get into it, like Lossiemouth didn't get into it.
Yeah.
And that eases things. But if they try and settle him and look around and there's a big injection of pace in the race, he might struggle to cope with that, and that's where you see these mistakes creep in. But the big outlier was at Punchestown, where he didn't look interested, even before the kind of jumping at speed. He took the hump a little bit, so he's still got that attitude question there as well. And what is really there off the bridle as well is a doubt, because he might even jump the last quite well. But if you'd expect the New Lion to be fit and quick enough to kind of ask a question of him off the bridle as well, and the response hasn't looked good the last couple of times for Constitution Hill. So I think if you were compelled to have a bet in the race, which I might not, I think the New Lion drifted out at 74 2-1 is worth considering.
Okay, I'm going to wait until the day.
It'll either be no bet or I'll be betting the New Lion at the prices.
Okay, I think I'll be with no bet, and then if Constitution Hill becomes backable, because I'm more than happy if he's similar to Kempton, where I think he went off even money. I was happy to take that.
I remember at Punchestown where they just went in for him again. Even it happened at Aintree, it happened to the champion hurdle. These horses like him, horses that kind of, it's so much kind of talk, no matter what, and like Tiger Roll in the Grand National, there's very rare these horses that do have a name out with the kind of racing bubble a little bit. and that's why they always constantly get backed, because there's a lot of kind of general public money with them.
Yeah, there's a lot of excitement.
And that's what makes them no better. Punchestown is a classic example for me. Then Stateman went out to 2-1 and said, "There's a bet." That was a race where thinking, "Oh, I don't want to have a bet here. I might even back Kyrgyz." And Constitution just get hammered and hammered, like 11-10 evens. I'm thinking, what are you doing? And then Stateman's like out of twos in Willie Mullins' backyard. Sometimes the market dictates what you're going to do. You can have a rough idea of a race, and this is kind of aging a similar way now, where the new line could come out of twos. Constitution Hill goes into evens, and so there's only one bet there, in my opinion.
Let's see what happens. Right, we've got one more race to talk about in Newcastle before we get into Fairyhouse. We've got the rehearsal handicap chase over 2 mile, 7 furlongs. Deafening Silence is in here for the Skeltons. Cruise Control, Confusion. You've got Doc Picked Me. Wee Word and Jasmine de Grugy for Anthony Honeyball. Was second at Punchestown last time. Was obviously beaten by a good horse and Bill Baxter, but I actually think that's turned out to be a really good race. 1-2-6. I think there's more to come off that. I think there's a decent jumper. I've got a wee notion of Jasmine de Grugy in this.
Yeah, possibly. And the Honeyball Yard are going really, really well, aren't they? And Deafening Silence has got a lot of back class. And there's a kind of skeleton angle again, and you can see why. But the big story of this race is how on earth can this only attract 8?
Yeah,
8 runs. We're not even final decks. 8. For a handicap chase of this ilk, 8.
Yeah,
At 5-day entries, that's it. 8. No kind of outside, the rehearsals. Big Northern handicap. I can't believe there's only 8 for this. I mean, I know you talk about budgets and money and things like that, and gross gambling yield kind of going down. This is why. I mean, 8 horses for this. It's just a massive, massive alarm bell. A huge turn off. I mean, I think the favourite actually will be quite hard to beat in it, but because I think Deafening Silence, he does shape as if he wants a bit further. And the way he took out the race at Warwick suggested that I think he might well be a bit of a stayer, but I'm fighting 50. Well, this is the best supporting race, and I can't believe that it's only attracted 8, and we're not even in declaration time. I mean, I think it's pretty concerning stuff.
Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, it's not good. Right, let's get into one of my favourite days of the year in terms of racing is Fairyhouse. We've got 3 races to talk about. We'll start with the Royal Bond at Novices Hurdle, Callum. Vibes seem to be pretty strong on Love Me Tender for the Mullins team. Roundabout even money just now. Always turns up a good horse. Like, there's been good horses, obviously, that have went on to do well at Cheltenham. Love Me Tender's even money. There's the likes of Game Ball, Port Authority, Cocktail Brute. The market is very interesting here, and the McManus horse looks to be the one to beat.
Yeah, and you can kind of see why, really. I mean, Willie Mullins, unbeaten horse, looks the part. And the third Arch Empire came out at Cheltenham and ran okay from the Tipperary form. What a strong race. I just don't think he got home up the hill. And I think actually travelled into the base. The Mark McKeely horse surprised him in that grade 2. Ran no sort of race subsequently though at Down Royal. So I do wonder if that Elliott horse is a little bit of a handicap project down the line. We'll wait and see in that one. But I thought Love Me Tender was more impressive than Davy Crockett that came out earlier for Same Connections early in the season and did that well. 16s, something like that for a Supreme, and then no issues coming back down the trip. So early sighter, whether it's mystical power-esque and you can hold that form and take this out and win, who knows? But I mean, Port Authority is unexposed, could be anything. The Elliott Yard, to same colours as Romeo Coolio, who somehow butchered it when he didn't win it
last year. Yeah.
Game Ball's a horse I really, really like for the Elliots, for the Bromheads team. It's just whether that kind of red hot October into early November form is beginning to dip already for that yard. So I do wonder if he's going to back that up. He might suspicion that he might run below par. Lovely Tenner's going to be hard to beat. The elite horse will get interesting, but and I really like Game Ball, so hopefully those three all turn up, and it'll be a decent race because all the big yards will be represented with something that pretty decent.
Yep, absolutely. We've got the Drinmore Novices Chase at 2:05. Romeo Coolio, the aforementioned horse, is 4-7 here. Gold Dancer for Willie Mullins looks to be coming as well. You've got the likes of Old Man Dingle, Supreme Winner 2 years ago. Slade Steele was also in here. Romeo Coolio is the exciting one. Is 2.5 miles at this stage what he's needing?
Yeah, I think so. I think Down Royal, when he won that 2.5, we did a lot of fences taken out, but he looked like that kind of horse. He looks a kind of grade 2 operator, really. Like in his hurdles days, where like he'll probably run second or third and to the top notchers and take out these kind of contests. He beat Cocktail Divan quite well. Cocktail Divan was a decent enough second in behind
Ran okay, yeah.
Oscar's brother, didn't he? For the Corner King yard. So I don't think that form's been knocked at all. There was a lot of fences taken out with Romeo Coolio won, but he was very good, very efficient. He looked like a 150, 150 with hurdles. He already looks to be like that as a chaser. Only 6, and I think he's probably going to improve for a fence. And 8-11, it's hard to kind of quibble about that. Gold Dancer won at Tipperary, won quite well, and Down Mexico Way's won since. So that form is working out. So he's definitely not, maybe more of a threat than the market's going to let it on to the favourite. Get Slade Steele, who last year didn't go to plan for him, various reasons, but he was a length and a half behind Lecky Watson at Nace, who then went out to win at Cheltenham, and Blizzard of Oz, who took out a big handicap, and he was fourth, and Lobron was fourth and was second in that Bet365 chase to Resplendent Great end of the season. So that's probably much better form than it looked at the time. So I mean, he can get back together, and he usually runs quite well fresh, so he's interesting as well. Old Man Dingle's rated a mid-140s horse. He's not too bad. And Captain Cody's there as a Scottish national winner now. I mean, I don't know how he is a novice. I know these second season novices. You ought to know his race 4 times.
I Am Maximus won it
over fences. I Am Maximus, a couple of kind of second season types have won it. So it's kind of an odd. It's kind of an odd ruling in that regard, but there's a bit of depth to this when you look behind it. Romeo Coolio's the one that you'd expect to make waves going forward, but he's priced accordingly. He's got to go out and do it. So yeah, you can maybe see why people might try and look and take him on a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good race. We've got the Hatton's Grace hurdle at 2:36, and it looks to be a shootout between Tia Hoopu and Ballyburn. 10-11 Tia Hoopu obviously won the race before. Ballyburn's coming back over hurdles. Mystical Pebbles in here at 8-1 in the Magna colours, which I didn't know until today that Magna had a share in the horse. Right, Tia Hoopu against Ballyburn. Is your money going one place or the other? Because to me, this is an absolute cast iron certainty that Tia Hoopu beats Ballyburn here. Maybe not at Cheltenham, but I think Tia Hoopu wins this.
Yeah, I'd be in the Tia Hoopu camp. He's got less to prove, hasn't he, really? Ballyburn going back over hurdles, and he might need to kind of take some time over it. Tia Hoopu goes well fresh. This will be his target. What you would want is soft ground for Tia Hoopu.
Yeah,
he's best. He's only £2 difference. Ballyburn a year younger. He could have enormous potential. He might have a bit more tactical speed. Over his novice hurdling days. He was electric, wasn't he? If he finds that thread quite quickly, he could turn him over. So I don't think it's an absolute nailed on thing. This. I think it's kind of at this stage of the season, particularly, it's who will you trust the most. And Willie Mullins could easily still send Lossiemouth here. They must be quite relatively happy to have Ballyburn as their number one for this. Interesting if Mystical Power can get back on track. I think you just want him to see out his race, really. I think it's interesting that Casualty Lad's been left in for the moment, or Maxim, because they're just going to be making the pace, really, aren't they, for for T Hoopu, give him something to aim at, because what he would want is a truly run race for sure. He didn't really get that at Cheltenham. Came out Punchestown and did it quite well, but he was probably entitled to only a steering furlong to really beat. Other main rivals kind of disappointed. This is usually his race. He get beaten it last year, but that bumping into Lossiemouth, there's no shame in that. And is Ballyburn going to be automatically back at that level? I thought he was quite disappointed at Punchestown and behind Champ Keeley, where, all right, he didn't jump well, but he had every chance that day. A lot went right, and he also didn't really convince at the trip to me. So maybe coming back in trips is ideal. He might not be a kind of out and out stayer. So yeah, I mean, Ballyburn's definitely capable of turning him over, but like Constitution, a little bit difficult. Not as dramatic, but a little bit difficult to trust. And I think T Hoop is just more proven, fresh, goes well fresh, and it looks like he's going to get his ground. And stablemates are going to go out there and make it a good pace. And I think Gorney will be pretty determined to go out and win this. And Sheed's odds on 10-11. If he goes out evens, I think he probably becomes a bet.
Right, if you any other kind of bets of the weekend before we get into the Ante Post side of things?
Not really. I mean, that Grade 3 at Fairyhouse is always going to be interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Narciso Haas seems to be the nominated one for Willie Mullins. Now he's the one that I thought would be top of the pecking order. So, and with the new Triumph Hurdle rule, you'd be looking to get them out earlier as well now. So I think it's a decent sign that he's pitched up here. But Barbazon was quite good at Navan. Probably did better than Mange Toot, for instance. So, and she's still in the race. So I suspect that's going to be a really, really good race. And there'll probably be various Boodles candidates in behind in that. So that's usually a very informative juvenile race. There's also a good one at Newbury as well. So yeah, no cast iron bets, but plenty of supporting races worth monitoring.
Yep. Yeah, there is a few, and obviously we'll have our column. I'll have a column out Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Callum will have his selections out for the weekend. Right, we've waited 3 weeks, and I'm going to finally get a couple of anti-post plays on the board. Waited a few weeks, but we're there. I'd imagine, obviously, you'll have some at some point coming in through the season. A couple you maybe like.
Yeah, I'm just not there yet. I mean, maybe even next week. Maybe next week for a King George or something like that. But I mean, because I think the top three all have obvious chances of respect, but they're taking a lot out the market and maybe a bit too much. So yeah, maybe I'm just not quite there yet. I think, and the whole yards are like moving and trying to monitor things. I mean, like for instance, like Sir Tudo, for instance, you would say the obvious Albert Bartlett horse to come out of the champion bumper. You would have thought
taking my thunder there.
You would have thought, but he looked pretty quick. So I mean, I think he could turn up in any of these three novice hurdles at the moment. So, and it only takes one horse. Like when Stateman came out, the pecking order significantly changes, and it has knock-on effects in different races. So I think this far out with it, a lot of the price is quite cramped. I'm happy enough at the moment to keep my powder dry, but. Yeah, I will have a go at some point.
You couldn't have set that up any better. It was like Joffrey Archer bowling to an Australian batsman. That's what that was like, because
Mitchell Stark bowling to an England batsman would be a much better comparison.
Very much so, yeah. But we'll start with Sir Tudo at 16-1 for the Turners at Novices Hurdle. Okay. I have covered them for the Albert Bartlett because there's every possibility he goes there. But as you say, it was always Willie Mullins put in his Sporting Life stable tour that he was potentially a stay in the future, and I think people thought that was a Bartlett thing. He didn't look short of gears in Sunday. Beat Jalan Duderi, who does look like he needs a trip. Didn't look short. I text you immediately after the race going, I think he could be the Lollers of Nasos, and if he goes there and wins that, I'd be very surprised if he goes for a Bartlett. I thought his bumper form was really good. I think he was running them in the big races. Similar type of profile in bumpers to Fact to File, where they were just clearly wanted further, but they were throwing him in the big races and he was running well. I think that at the moment, the way the Turners is working, there's not a lot of kind of, I don't know, Willie Mullins might have 2 or 3, but a bit more pace. And it's not like, though, that Willie Mullins won't run him, and Willie Mullins will run him in the race he fancies him in. Remember the year in Perry Pass won the Ballymore, he had Gaelic Warrior and Champ Kiley in that. So it's not like he avoids because he's got a good one. If Sir Toodle shows gears in a Lawlers of Nace, or whether they decide to kind of take him up and trip gradually, and maybe the Nathaniel Lacey's the plan, if he shows a gear, I don't think he's going to go Albert Bartlett with him. He only goes Albert Bartlett without an outstairs or horses that can't jump. This horse jumped fine apart from one bad mistake early on. I think he's a player in a Turners if he goes there, and the power of Ante Post betting is you can cover yourself. I think 16 to 1 for a Turners is a good price, and I'm going to go for him in this.
Interesting. Because he certainly didn't look a slouch, did he?
No.
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing 20s on Sky Bet, so
20, we'll go 20s in Sky Bet, yeah. I've 16s I've got, so 20s is about, I'll take that.
I just think that the Irish haven't really played any.
No, they haven't played that
of significance yet, so it's quite difficult to factor in where he would go. The second Jallender that he placed in the Champion Bump back in the day, and probably needed it really, really badly, and ran quite well up to a point. And I thought he might have been the one to take out of it.
I think he could be a ballot player, yeah,
because that's usually the race against Town Elliott horses like that go, and he'd be a huge price for that. So I mean, if you're from that line of form, then maybe that's worth considering as well. But he's just in the could be anything bracket. In fact, I mean, the Champion Hurdle, the Champion Bumper, I mean, I thought just better, classier horses than him around. Dr. Dominilo, Bambino Fear, and Willie Mullins nominated this, the Turners potentially for her down the line. So I mean, if she's not Mayor's Novice is bound, she goes into open company, then she might hold the trump card to everything else. And I wouldn't rule out My Daddy Paddy going up and trip. Sober Glory could turn up here. I mean, no drama this end, maybe more of a Bartlett type at the moment to be competitive. But for me, novice hurdles, I think I would rather wait till Christmas. But he's a decent enough price and he's worth a poke, and he definitely looked quicker, and he's set out an early kind of mark in the Mullins yard, and he's a horse that they've talked up reasonably. They've not talked him up, I think, as if he's a top notcher, but the fact that he's shown maybe a different kind of gear to what everyone expects suggests that he might be a lot better than people anticipated. So yeah, he's a nice enough price in that 16-21 bracket, and it's an exciting kind of ticket. The good thing is playing it in Novice Hurdle or Triumph Hurdle early is that it gives you motivation to follow the market, and you can look at things and you can get on top of things, and you can compare things quite quicker. So definitely no harm in it, and it's a nice each way poke. And yeah, I would neither here nor there with it, mainly myself, but I can see him being in the race, and I can see him being shorter. So that's what you want.
Yep, absolutely. And the second one is with an eye in mind to Friday. I think imposed to at 20 to 1 for the Stairs Hurdle. I think he's a progressive type. I think if he wins the long distance hurdle, I don't think he's going to be 20 to 1. So as you say, try and get him shorter. I think 20 to 1 is a big price. I don't think the Stairs Hurdle, again, we'll get a clue with Ballyburn and Tia Hupu. Other than that, you're not looking at much behind. I think he's probably the one out the kind of rest I would look at and go, you can be the kind of best of the British. I'd imagine the plan is to go to the long walk if he wins that. He's also in the attempts. If they win this, they're not going to go. They're not going to be able to go per attempts, are they? They're not. If they win a grade 2, they're going to need to look at a grade 1 next. And I think 20 to 1 imposed to. I think he's the sort of horse I like for this. And we've seen in the past, you can go from handicaps. Paisley Park being a perfect example. Lisnagar Oscar. There's horses that go from handicaps into Stairs hurdles and progress enough to win. And I think he could be another one.
And they had that kind of dilemma earlier on the season. JP McMahon said with the Wall Park and ran all right in its Stairs hurdle. So you know what level to go to. You know it's not stratospheric. So I mean, Gold Cup Champion Hurdle, you're looking pushing 170. Here you're kind of low 160s gets in the frame. So, and he's 153. He's £10 to find. He's unexposed, and he doesn't really have a massive deal to find. He acts around Cheltenham second of Coral Cup, which is good form to Jimmy Desoy. He just bumped into one with unexposed from the Mullins here and came kind of from nowhere. And Henderson usually runs his best handicap project for Cheltenham in the Coral Cup. And that's where he did that, and he already had the 1-2 and the Pertomps anyway, I think, last season. Anyway, won it, and Jericho Peppery was second, who can't jump a fence. So I mean, he was a bit of an eye catcher. Like, I mean, people were kind of going, Kim Muir for him, slightly. So the plot's already out in force. This one, I mean, Sunday's going to be massive, isn't it? You know, if you see two Hoopu and Ballyburn do what Gaelic Warrior and Facty Fell did, then I think they might be in trouble. But Bob Alonso goes well fresh.
Still get a play. I mean, places as well. You mentioned about places a couple of weeks ago. You're getting just under fives.
Yeah,
finishing the first three.
Could completely cut up. Yeah, that's the kind of angle that we're kind of looking at, is you can identify races that might cut up. The Ryanair might be one. The Facty Fell's kind of there. He could scare everyone away and stuff like that. You know, the Browns could be one of these races as well. You know, Final Demand scares him away. He's only got 4 to beat. You know, if you find one at 66 as it runs and goes off third favourite and runs accordingly, you know, you'll get your place money in third. And it only takes something wrong to the favourite months out that you could actually get a backdoor look in and you actually get a chance of winning. So, and you know, any race that it finishes like the Champion Hurdle did last year, I mean, it suggests that anything can happen. So you can't completely laugh anything out of town. And I think your 2 picks in 16-21 are reasonable each way chances at this stage.
Yeah, I'll take them, and it's a good way to get off the mark. Yes. But we'll be back next week with a look. Obviously, we'll have more Grade 1s to talk about, and we're getting into the kind of good stage of the season. Where in December there's just meetings all around. Callum, always a pleasure, mate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks again.
Thank you very much, folks. Gamble responsibly, and we'll see you all soon.